Good morning. Today, let us speak about something very interesting about pelvis, and that is basically non orthopedics, but it's concerned with a very important function of the pelvis, which means how does a pelvis let the baby out? So, imagine that the pelvis is inlet is something like this, okay? So, this is the sacral promontory, and this is the pubic symphysis, and we would tilt it 45 degrees to fit into my body. So this is the 45-degree tilt. Now you don't forget this shape of the pelvis. I am going to remove it and imagine that it's the head of the baby that presents, that is at the lower part of the pelvis or at the pelvic brim. So thus the presentation, normal presentation, is head presentation. Alternatively, there can be a breech presentation, that means the bottoms are lower, or the shoulder presentation. So, but basically, we'll talk about normal labor, and that is head presentation. So, in this pelvis, the head is down, and you see the head is flexed like the state of universal flexion, and therefore the occiput is below. And this occiput, whichever quadrant of the pelvis it is in, is called is the is the position of the. So supposing the occiput is in the left anterior position here. So this is occipito anterior, left occipito anterior. Then there can be a right occipito anterior, left occipito posterior, or right occipito posterior. So if there are four quadrants in this pelvis, like this, the occiput can be in the left anterior position, in the right anterior position, the left posterior position, or the right posterior position. So the presentation is what part of the body of the fetus is presenting, and the position is where, in which quadrant of the pelvic inlet does the occiput lie, right? So this is the normal position of the body of the baby, and now the uterus is surrounding the baby, and in between is the fluid sac, so that the pressure of the uterus is usually uniform over the sac. Okay. Now the peculiarity of the uterine muscle is that it will contract and it will retract, it will relax, but it will retract. Retract means that it will retain its contracted position. So the normal uterus contracts and relaxes and regains its normal position, and you can feel these uterine contractions. The mother can also feel them, and they are called as Braxton Hicks contractions. Now what happens that when the labor starts, then this uterus starts contracting, relaxing, and retracting. And as it contracts, relaxes, and retracts, uh, for some time during the contraction, the fibers get ischemic, and therefore there is pain. So, if you want to assess the amount of contraction, you can sort of time the start of contraction, the end of contraction, and in how much time there is pain in the contraction. As the uterus is trying to overcome some obstruction, then this pain may be occurring throughout the contraction. So this is the difference between the contraction of labor and contraction of normal contraction of the uterus. Now, since the uterus is retracting, the volume in the uterus is going down, and the head, which is ballotable, mobile in the pelvic rim, gets fixed. So, pain appearing during contraction and fixing of the head means onset of labor. Then you see the head is flexed. Therefore, as the head is forced into the pelvic rim, the occiput strikes the pelvic floor first. So, the occiput strikes the pelvic floor here in the left occiput area. Pelvic floor is like this, levator ani, and it is sort of oblique upwards and downwards like this. So when the occiput strikes the left anterior position here, then it will slide into the forward gutter, and therefore this head, which is left occipito-anterior, would rotate. Now the face is behind, the occiput is in front. Occiput has to travel only the pubic symphysis. The face has to travel the whole of the sacrum. Therefore, this, as the head descends further, it starts extending. Now, at this stage, as the uterus is contracting, the head is dilating the cervix. And when the cervix is fully dilated by the bag of water ruptures. The station of the head at this point is at the ischial spine. After the ischial spine, the pelvis will open up. So the head is at the ischial spine. It will now start extending. The cervix is fully dilated and the bag of water is ruptured. After this, with every contraction, the head causes dilatation of the vagina. You can see the tuft of hair, and then as the contraction goes, the head goes up a little bit and the vagina becomes narrower. So when the largest diameter of head, which is the occipito-bregmatic diameter, that is about 3/4 of an inch, when that comes into the vaginal rim, then it is called as crowning of the head, because now the head would not go back. The largest diameter is across the vagina. At this point, there can be a perineal tear, posterolateral directed perineal tear or posteriorly directed perineal tear, and there can be a feco-vaginal fistula later on. So to prevent this tear in a primary, you have to do a episiotomy, which is directed towards the 4 o'clock position of the perineum. And or in a multipara, you have to sort of keep on supporting the posterior margin of the vagina from both sides so that it doesn't tear. Then as the head crosses the brim, you see the shoulders are in this position, the head was in this position, now the head had rotated. So the first thing that happens is that the head derotates. And then as the shoulders come and strike the levator ani, this right shoulder is lower, therefore it will rotate into the pelvic gutter, the levator ani, towards the pubic symphysis, and therefore this derotation would be completed by rotation. And then the shoulders would go through the space, because now the space is quite much. In the next contraction, the trunk will laterally flex and the baby will be out, will be delivered. So to repeat the steps of normal labor, the presentation in normal labor is that the head is down, presentation is head presentation. Position is that the occiput is in the left anterior quadrant, left occipital anterior. The head may be mobile, the uterus may be contracting, relaxing, but not retracting. That means Braxton's contraction. And then you see this starts. Now, how do you know that the second stage has started? First, the cervix is fully dilated. Secondly, the bag of water ruptures. And thirdly, because at this point the head is pressing on the rectum, therefore the lady feels as if with every contraction she wants to defecate. Now these types of pains are called as bearing down pains. So if there are bearing down pains, you know that the second stage of labor has begun. The cervix is fully dilated and now the head is descending. So this much I know about normal labor, and I have been able to tell you this. You see, when we learn, we forget, and there's something residual that we remember. And we as medical students were really made to conduct labor. You know, it was such a painful exercise. We used to run away, we used to get caught, and then we were made to actually do labor. And that came handy when I was once going from Delhi to Toronto in an Air India flight. It was Iraq war was on, and they announced in the plane in the morning that is there a doctor on board. So three of us got up. One was an orthopedic surgeon, me. The second was a cardiologist, and the third was an oncologist. So none of the cardiologist and oncologist had ever conducted labor, and there was this lady who was in labor. So I was called by the pilot and said what to do. I said, how many hours to London? They said 6 hours. So I got the last seat vacated in the middle row and made the lady sit down and asked her which was this delivery. She said it is the second delivery. And then I said that, okay, how much time did the first delivery take? She said 6 hours. I said the next delivery would be 2 hours and the time to London was 4 or 5 hours. We were somewhere north of Iraq. The Iraq-Iran war was on. So I asked the pilot, well, I can't hear the fetal sounds because you have to monitor the mother, you have to monitor the baby, and you have to monitor the passages and the powers. So I said, well, you divert towards the nearest airport Dubai. He said, we'll have to overfly Iran. I said, ask permission to overfly Iran. So they asked the permission to overfly Iran, and in 2 hours we were in Dubai. And by that time, as we were landing, I was able to conduct that delivery because, my teachers had taught me this mechanism of labor and what to do when. One thing more, and that is that as the shoulder delivers, you ask somebody to give an injection of intramuscular methergin because that would make the uterus contract, and that will, the placenta is stuck to the uterus like this. So when the uterus contracts, the placenta is released into the uterine cavity and you can easily deliver it out. So, and the second thing that happens is that as the uterus contracts, the blood vessels that are crossing the uterus are contracted and the postpartum bleeding is reduced. So this is the third stage of labor. So we had made somebody give intramuscular methogen as soon as the anterior shoulder was delivered. So this is the mechanism of labor, and this is how you conduct a normal labor, and this is how, you see, you get a lot of credit in being able to help deliver a child, because God delivers and you get the credit. The mechanism is so beautiful, it's the miracle of nature, and that brings a new life into the world. And you get all the sweets and the garlands and the applause, and the whole family is sort of grateful to you for life. So that's the story of the mechanism of normal labor, and what all you have to do to look after the mother, the baby, the passenger, and the passengers. Thank you.